In just 2 years, this inept administration, and of course their climate cult, they have nearly destroyed the American dream for all of us. Here with reaction, former senior counsel to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, along with Texas Congressman, former White House physician, Dr. Ronny Jackson. Kellyanne, with 39 days away from Election Day, Jen Psaki is right. If this election is a referendum on Joe Biden, the climate cult, and their failed policies and how they've wrecked all the progress that we made in the 4 years under Donald Trump, then they lose. If it's about all the other stuff, they will fare much better. Which way is the country going to go?
I think this is the most uncomplicated, straightforward issue set I've ever seen in 3 decades of doing this, Sean. It's rising cost, rising crime. You still have a lot of people concerned about education. Parents say they have a fundamental right to say where their children go to school and what is taught there. What we see on TV every night runs counter to what the Democrats, beginning with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, want us to believe. They want us to believe what they say, not what we see. We see wild people out of control, arbitrarily committing crimes. We see the cost of everything going up and out of control. We see the report that one of the fastest growing new groups of homeless in our country are single moms who have a job. They actually have a job, a means of support, but they get behind in the rent. This is Joe Biden's America. Now, the key to Republicans just squeaking by with a few seats and maybe a 50-50 Senate or a 51-49 Senate and having a monster night is this: having an affirmative, positive message that's doable and accessible and actionable, the commitment to America, a nation that is safe, an economy that is strong, a government that is accountable, and a future that is free. And number two, Sean, to your point about Biden, Pelosi, Harris, and the rest, in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman has to eat and own all of his own statements. He's pro-criminal, he's anti-fracking, but he has to be saddled with the Biden-Harris administration. Same thing with Raphael Warnock in Georgia. Out in Nevada, Adam Laxalt has to do that with that female Democratic senator who has 3 names and no accomplishments. Everywhere we go, people have to be held to account as Democrats. Ask Maggie Hassan, who's running for her political life for re-election in New Hampshire, the following question. When Kamala Harris stood in North Korea looking so foolish and embarrassing an entire nation of free people, but at the DMZ, she sounded like she was on TMZ. It looked like a caricature. Ask Maggie Hassan if she's comfortable with that level of leadership. But the ability to make every Democrat out there eat and own the failures and the flailing of this administration is the key to a monster victory in a few short weeks.
You know, Ronny, between Kellyanne and myself, we have 6 decades of experience, and I agree with her. This will be the biggest choice election in our lifetime. This matters. And, yeah, we can definitely point out all of their failures, but I like the commitments with America because they're pledging energy independence. They're pledging to control the borders. They are pledging to bring back law and order and safety and security. They're pledging choice in education. You know, they're pledging a better economy than the inflation, the recession that Biden got us in. So I think those promises, those commitments, then they either follow through or they don't. They don't follow through, they get fired. I think those are the principles that will bring America back.
Absolutely, Sean, you're right. We got a lot of work to do. I mean, and we're going to fulfill those commitments. You just wait and see. But everything Joe Biden touches domestically and internationally, Kellyanne's exactly right. It just goes horribly wrong. And this man's going to be 80 years old next month, and he looks absolutely horrible. He looks like he's going to fall asleep at any minute when he speaks. He slurs his speech. He shuffles when he walks. He has a blank stare. He's shaking hands with people that don't exist. He's talking to dead people now. I mean, this man is inspiring our enemies. The people that are watching this most closely are Iran and China and Russia, and they're inspired by what they see because they realize that we do not have competent leadership in this country. Something very bad is going to happen in the near future with this man at the helm, and the people that are enabling him are going to have to answer to this too, because it is past time for somebody in his administration to step up to the plate and do the right thing and let us know what's going on. There are people there that have a duty to do that. His physician, to start with, his cabinet members, Jill Biden, all the people that surround him, the chief of staff, and Susan Rice, and everybody else in the West Wing. They owe us an explanation as to what's going on with this man, and we need answers because this is leading us down a path of destruction both domestically and internationally. And I really think something bad's going to happen in the near future because we do not have leadership in the White House.
I have no idea. I don't think anybody can say with any certainty who's really making all the decisions in that White House. All right, Kellyanne, Ronny Jackson, thank you both. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.